All right, all right. So I'm Pro Pump 101 back at it again. Backed up by Brandon from BG, Health and Performance, Uncounted Peaks, Soka Choke Challenge, BJJ Jiu Jitsu, Man Frame, and Tap Battle Tested with Victory Multi Sport and Project One. Give us a little bit about your background and who you are and how people can follow you.
Okay, so I'm Jake Mchugh. I train at a Next Gen MMA Liverpool. I'm an MMA fighter. Um, About to turn professional. Um, that's about it. I'm on Instagram if you want to follow me.
Awesome, awesome. Also, I want to ask you, you got a big fight, an event coming up in September. And how pumped up are you about that? And right, you're still undefeated. I seen 5-0, right? And if I'm correct, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, yeah. 5-0 at
And
amateur. Yeah,
yeah, and submissions, you're a big, jitsu grappler and everything, and look like you wrestled too when I watched your fight.
yeah.
And looked like your striking was on point too when I was looking at your video. And you can bang, you can ground and pound, and you can wrestle. So like this, I mean, and you get the moves in. So I mean, how did you get the perfect form to get this in? Like how's your camp help you and everything?
So I just train every day. I'm in the gym every day, and whether I'm training or not, I'm in the gym. Whether I'm teaching or I'm training or I'm at home researching, I'm always thinking about MMA, always thinking about fighting. I did come from a grappling background, so I started off with judo when I was younger, and then I moved on to more BJJ style, and then a couple of years ago started to do MMA properly and got all my wrestling in. So I only really started wrestling properly once I started doing MMA. So I got all of my wrestling knowledge sort of from an MMA standpoint. So rather than like a um, a normal wrestling sort of learning path, I got more of a MMA wrestling type based, which just sort of fits in with how I play jiu-jitsu. I'm a smaller guy, but I play a very heavy top pressure game, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So just that style works for me. It's what I'm good at. Do you know what I mean? And I've got some of the
Yeah,
best striking in the country, if not Europe, in next gen. So that's can't not improve being where I am.
that's amazing. Because I mean, like when you see like your 5-0 record, and I see it, and then I watch your interview with other broadcasters and people interviewing you all the time, and they said, you kept telling them like, man, I'm the best on the ground. I could do this. I can switch positions into, any position. I can submit anybody on the ground. So, I mean, how does the confidence level get to how'd you get the confidence level so high while you're, in that camp for environment wise?
Um, Confidence comes from a lot of things. To be fair, you've got to have a lot of self belief to do what we do. Do you know what I mean? You can't go into any sort of um, any sort of competition. You can't be an athlete or a competitor with any sort of self doubt. You've got to go into every single fight or every single competition believing that you have the skills to achieve what you need to achieve within the within your sport or whatever you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to end up failing. And a lot of my confidence comes from my coaches and my training partners. I know I'm training with some of the best athletes out there, and I know I've got some of the best coaching out there. Do you know what I mean? Like the level of detail into everything is just unreal. Um, the people in the gym put you through some of the hardest rounds you've ever been through in your life. Do you know what I mean? That's where your confidence comes from. So if you can like thrive and survive in those horrible situations against these certain people, then you know you're good to go out there. But like confidence also comes from experience. So I've not just done MMA, I've done like lots of other competitions in the past, and I've got quite a lot of experience um, competing and doing other things. And then that experience obviously helps you when you're in there being calm and like collected and trying not to rush things and just sticking to your game plan and keeping a level head while you're in there. Also, coaching helps a lot. So being able to break things down to have to teach other people helps helps your technique get better and helps everything solidify it in your mind. So that obviously helps your confidence as well. And when you're training, like whether it's kids or people, and then your stuff that you teach them actually works in competition for the people that you're teaching. That gives you confidence as well, because the stuff that you're teaching, actually works because you can see it working for other people. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes great sense because I noticed like I did mixed martial arts and I fought too and everything, so I gave a little background on me. And when I did the wrestling, and I did jujitsu and everything, you have to form it and you have to take patience is a big thing, right? There's a lot of fighters out there you see they try to go at it real quick and then they mess up their game plan. So it's amazing seeing when I seen you fight, you could tell the patience you had, you could tell the way you grappled and then the way you set up the striking to get into the grappling. So the transition is amazing. And on top of it, I was just talking to Chris Price, and he was funny, right? He said
Yeah,
a lot of funny stuff and everything.
he offers
And
it.
I was talking to him, but he said the same thing you said. He said that you have the top of the line fighters over at where you're at, in next generation, and you have UFC, Bellator, everything you could think of, and then on top of it, they're putting you through those deep ends, right? They're in the camps or anything. So when you get to those deep ends, and then you go in the fight, you're ready pretty much for those deep ends. Just like Chris said, he'll be right in that position. But I mean, how do you feel? Have you been in a deep end like where you had to convert and kind of throw the game plan out a little bit, and you had to go to another game plan?
You mean like in a fight or like in a
Yeah, in the
competition
fight.
scenario? Yeah, there's been times you go against people, and then there's some of the things that you do, obviously doesn't work because of like when you go in and you're going against that person, you never know what that person is going to feel. You can do as much research as you want, but you never know what that person is going to feel like until you're there. So you never know what someone's top pressure is going to feel like until you're underneath them, wanting to not be there anymore. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to make adjustments on the fly, and that's where like competition experience comes into it, because like even when things don't go the way that you plan, you can't just lose your head. You've got to keep yourself collected, and you've got to so like having an understanding of position and why things are happening the way that they're happening, and like the different reactions that other people can give in certain positions through the experience of competing and through the experience of drilling hundreds and hundreds of times and repetitions in the training room. That's sort of how you deal with them scenarios where things don't actually go your way, because when things don't actually go your way, you've probably actually been there before in the training room or in a fight. Do you know what I mean? So you can just sort of get through it. And when you've got like the experience of drilling as much as like we do at Next Gen, then there aren't really many positions that you're gonna get stuck in. Do you know what I mean? So like even if you do get stuck, there's always a different way out, and there's always a different way out that we've drilled hundreds and hundreds of times. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. No, I mean, there's so much. I noticed like in on UFC roster and in Bellator and in PFL, I noticed there's like everybody doesn't see it yet, but I see it. In England and Liverpool, there's another generation coming up, right? That is looking dominating. They're looking great. And what's cool is seeing that is that they see what like the future, what other past athletes that came from England and Liverpool have done, and they want to correct those and say, hey, I got to do it this way, and I got to switch up this way, and I got to make sure when I hit, we'll say UFC promotion or Bellator promotion or PFL, when you hit those promotions, you want to be at that level where you're going to be, top five, maybe a champion.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what I mean? Especially with, like having all the people around you in like wherever in the region that you're living in and in the country that you're living in, all coming up together makes the scene much more competitive, and then the more competitive the scene is, the better athletes come out on top. Do you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
the more competitive, the better. I just get to test myself. So
I really I like what when Patty said, because we talked Chris, I talked to Chris Price about Patty and everything, and I like what when he said on live TV, he said about the mental, right? You have somebody always to talk to about the mentalness, and make sure that you have everybody to talk to all the time. And that really meant a lot because a lot of people are going, a lot of fighters, a lot of people in general are going through a lot of stuff. And when he said those words, I mean, it just went through everybody like, no, he's 100% right. You have somebody always to talk to.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Do you know what I mean? We've all got our people, and we all need to. Like MMA is one of the hardest sports on the body. One of the hardest things you can do on the body and on the mind that any human being could ever do with the weight cutting and with the amount of training that we have to do, which is a lot more than a lot of other combat sports. I think the only one that maybe passes it is like wrestling and certain types of wrestling. So like a lot of the days you do come home and you feel like you just can't move your body, like you can't do anything, you don't want to speak to anyone. But that's just unfortunately that's just part of the thing. That's just part of the struggle, I suppose, to get where you want to go. And having them people in your life and having good coaches that you know you can talk to if like you're really having a bad week or whatever, you can always go to your coaches and you can always be like, I'm having a bad week, and they'll just be like, okay, take a day off, sort your head out, and then come back. And then I'm very lucky in that I've got my girlfriend, and she's been boss supporting me right the way through the whole journey that I've been on. So I get to come home and I get to just moan and just be audible to her.
No, that's amazing. No, because I look at it this way too. Look at Conor McGregor, right? Conor McGregor has his wife and everything. And the biggest thing people don't realize, she was there with him, right? When
Yeah,
everything was low. And then they built up to this. He said, I'll give you whatever. You know, he told like in a live interview, he said, I'm gonna give her everything. And she's gonna be the one, and that's what I'm working hard for. And he made everything come true. And that has to mean a lot to, you know, not a lot to a lot of people out there, especially in relationships and with their wives and their girlfriends and everything else. Because I mean, these days you see a lot of athletes, high athletes, right? They go through the relationships and that really mentally hits them the wrong way. And so like they break up and everything, and that really hurts them as a fighter too. So having that support system to go home and to be with the one you love and everything is really a big thing.